let's look at another potential way of developing applications, and that is React Native. The idea of React Native is this. Normally, our React code, we might have an app that would return, let's just look at a very simple one, h1, my app. And then we might have, let's say, a button with an on-click, and our button might say, press me. And I guess we need a div around this. And let's put one more thing in here, which is my component. We've got a div with my component in it, and then a button, and that's it. What we are creating in normal React, so this is non-native, is a tree consisting of eventually DOM elements, right? Because all the components eventually turn into just DOM elements. We've got all these HTML components. What React Native says is, so we've got React on the left side, and let's use native on the right side. So we would still have an app component. It would still return a hierarchy of elements. But the actual widget to use are different. Views are the equivalent of divs. They're containers of other things. And so within the view, instead of an h1, you use text. You might have text that says my app and no text. You still can have your own components. And then for buttons, there are actually uppercase buttons. And instead of on click, it's an on press. What we note is that unlike the HTML, these native elements are capitalized. These get turned into the appropriate element in the actual platform. So a view might turn into, let's say, an NS view on iOS, and might turn into whatever the equivalent is on Android. Same for text and so on. But the overall approach to creating a React Native application is similar to creating a React application. You're creating a bunch of components. These components have properties that gets passed down. You can be using state information, so that might be with Redux, for example, or you might just have state information that you're maintaining with setState and so on. And the programming is done in JavaScript. Your application is running in JavaScript. The difference is just at the lowest level, as we get rid of all your components, instead of ending up with HTML elements like h1 and button and div, we end up with analogs to native elements. So capital view, capital text, capital button, and so on. And then those are going to use whatever the corresponding native element is. Let's talk about a couple things about React Native. One, no CSS, because we're not in a browser. Instead, we can do styling of elements by passing in a style attribute. So we can pass in a style attribute to a text component to tell it what size and whether we want centering and all those sorts of things. We can pass that into views to determine how things are laid out. Yes, on JavaScript. What else do we have? We are using native UI elements. It comes with core components. These core components are things like view and text and button and so on, but you can create your own native components. In fact, there's a whole directory of them that are available that other people have written. You can also have platform-specific code. You can have whole files of JavaScript that are specific to Android or to iOS. In fact, you can just use a suffix and it'll pick one or the other. Or you can programmatically have code by checking the platform, seeing what platform you're on, and then doing different things. Like Cordova, there's also the possibility to create shims that interface between the JavaScript world and the native world. That way, if you want to get access to some functionality on a platform for which there is no provided support in React Native, you can actually write these shims. You need, just as you do in Cordova, JavaScript interface, because the guts of your application are written in JavaScript. But you can write this shim and package that as part of your application. Let's look at the upside. You can have yourself a native app, right? Native look and feel. Your performance is probably not going to be quite as great as a custom application written directly in Swift or Kotlin, because you've got the JavaScript interpreter overhead. But the development actually can be quite nice. When you're using React Native, you can have a quick turnaround cycle where you are saving your application, and then you have a way to be running that in your device so that it is hot loading and getting a quick turnaround. I think that's about it for React Native.